Now that the election's over, the liberal media are admitting that under the Biden-Harris administration, pretty much everything has gotten worse, historically worse. Does it count as honest journalism if they tell the truth when the facts no longer matter? I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. As the Libs jump up and down with joy over the murder of that UnitedHealthcare CEO, one liberal pundit, Joy Reid, is flipping the script. She says that conservatism justifies violence. We'll get to that in a moment. First, though, folks, stop the car, take notes, pull out your pen. If you want your Mayflower cigars, today is the last chance to order and get your order in time for Christmas. If you want your chestnut candle from thecandleclub.com, chestnut candle is the seasonal candle from the Michael Knowles Candle Collection. We've sold about a bazillion candles. Chestnut is really, really good. When you light it, you will have chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Also, the Wise Man candle, which is great. Also, all the other ones, thecandleclub.com. If you want the yes or no game and the yes or no expansion packs, you go to dailywire.com/shop. If you want all these things by Christmas, you can still get them, but you have to order by this Sunday. Sunday is the last chance to order and get your orders by Christmas. Don't wait. Don't delay a little bit. Really, you should just order today. Your Mayflower cigars, your yes or no game, your thecandleclub.com candles. Order them today. You will get them by Christmas. If you miss out, don't say I didn't tell you so. Little bit of Christmas cheer coming in early. Jill Biden had this to say about the season at the White House.
So I hope that you all feel that sense of, peace and light, and that just for a moment when you leave here today that you feel, a sense of joy. Because I think we all need we all need to feel joy now during this time of the season, during this time. So anyway, okay, now I'll start. You're all reading into that.
Oh, man. Hell hath no fury like the wife of a husband scorned. You cannot convince me that Joe Biden did not vote for Donald Trump. To me, that seals the deal. That little joy comedy bit she just did, that little comedy routine, that is 100% proof that Jill Biden not only didn't vote for Kamala, I think the woman voted for Trump. Jill Biden is quickly becoming one of my favorite figures in American public life. I didn't see that one coming. But notice the setup here, because Jill Biden's not really a politician and she's certainly not a comedian. So she's a little awkward in her setup of what was obviously a comedy bit that was pointed at Kamala, who made joy the initial motto of her campaign. She comes out there, she goes, this season, we all need to feel peace. We all need to feel comfort, or whatever she said. I wasn't even paying attention. There was the 1, 2. It's the rule of 3. It's the 1, 2, and we need to feel this, and we need to feel. She has this theatrical pause. I don't know, just maybe a little bit of joy. Are we all feeling a little joy since the election? Kamala, how you? Oh, wait. And then she even admits, she acknowledges the shade she is casting at Kamala. When she looks with that mug on her face, she looks over there at the reporter. She says, oh, you're all reading a little bit into that, aren't you? That joy comment. How you like that joy, Kamala? A lot of people suspected that maybe Joe Biden didn't like Kamala Harris so much after Kamala Harris led a coup d'etat to throw Jill's husband off the top of the ticket, booed him out of his second term. I guess it would have been Jill's second term. But then I think a lot of people got the sense that maybe this woman is voting for Trump when she wore a red dress on Election Day. Seemed pretty intentional. Then you have all these pictures of late with Trump visiting the White House and Jill looking at him like this man is her hero. She is just fawning over this guy. And then that final line, ever since the election, and this season happens to follow immediately after the election, I'm just feeling a little bit of joy. Love her. She's great. Jill has really done a 180 in my book. I am now very, very pro Dr. Jill. I hope you are too. Why wouldn't Jill be feeling joy at the election of Donald Trump? Most Americans voted for Trump. Most Americans voted for Trump. A huge number of people across all different demographics voted for Trump. He won an electoral college landslide. Why is that? Because things under the Biden administration have gotten much, much worse. The liberal media would not admit that before the election. Now that the election is over, now they're all admitting it. Here's a CBS News headline. Just came out yesterday. CBS News. Americans are paying more than ever for health insurance. Denials add to their pain. Now, this isn't not possible. You and I both know this headline. It can't possibly be true because Barack Obama promised us that when he passed his Obamacare healthcare plan, the Affordable Care Act, that was going to bring down the prices for health insurance. That was going to solve our healthcare problem once and for all. I'm not going crazy, right? You remember when he told us this.
Over the next 10 years, from 2010 to 2019, they are pledging to cut the rate of growth of national healthcare spending by 1.5 percentage points each year, an amount that's equal to over $2 trillion. $2 trillion. Their efforts will help us take the next and most important step, comprehensive healthcare reform, so that we can do what I pledged to do as a candidate and save a typical family an average of $2,500 on their healthcare costs in the coming years. Let me repeat that point. What they're doing is complementary to and is going to be completely compatible with a strong, aggressive effort to move healthcare reform through here in Washington with an ultimate result of saving healthcare costs for families, businesses, and the government. That's how we can finally make healthcare affordable.
Just in case you forgot. So private healthcare is going to cut the rate of growth, and then the government's going to come in, and it's actually going to cut costs. So the average American is going to save $2,500, except, well, hold on. CBS News is now admitting that Americans are paying more for health insurance than ever before. And we even gave Obama a little buffer here. He said this would all happen within 10 years. We gave him 15 years. Maybe that's what happened, though. Maybe did they go down after 10 years and they spiked up again to the highest levels ever? No, actually, the costs of health insurance just skyrocketed because of the Democrat policies. Joe Biden actually came out during the Obamacare signing. He said, this is a big effing deal. And it ended up being a huge deal because the opposite of what the Democrats promised has happened. Healthcare costs went through the roof. Now, why else is CBS posting this now? Because CBS is justifying, or at least laying the groundwork for others to justify the assassination of that UnitedHealthcare CEO. The UnitedHealthcare CEO comes out, and then all of a sudden CBS says, well, people are really irritated. There are a lot of denials of coverage, and the costs are going through the roof. Turns out Obama and the Democrats totally lied to us. Okay, well, the Libs are reacting to this by cheering on the murder of the healthcare CEO and booing the arrest of his murderer. This from Jon Stewart.
Obviously, couldn't have been that guy. Today, they did appear to catch that guy today at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. It's true. Look, I'm sorry, guys. Apparently, a bystander at the McDonald's ratted him out. And normally, I would say snitches get stitches, but obviously without pre-approval, there's really...
Several amazing parts of this clip. 3 distinct amazing parts of this clip. One, they say the murderer got caught, and you hear the audience, multiple people in the audience, booing. Jon Stewart's very liberal, uniformly liberal audience, boo, they caught the murderer of that healthcare CEO. Second amazing part of that clip, Jon Stewart's punchline is that health insurance companies are terrible. The punchline wasn't anything about how it's wrong to commit murder. The punchline wasn't anything even really about the murderer. The punchline was, yeah, don't we hate those healthcare companies? You don't get your pre-approval. And then the third amazing part ties in with what we were talking about with Obamacare, which is Barack Obama gets elected, promises to fix the healthcare problem once and for all, and Jon Stewart is making the same jokes today in the year of our Lord, 2024, as he would have been making in 2007. You had 3 Democrat terms over that time. You had Obamacare go through. You had the Supreme Court implausibly uphold Obamacare. You had Republicans, thanks to John McCain, unable to repeal Obamacare. You've had Barack Obama's health care plan since he passed it in his first term. And Jon Stewart's making the exact same jokes. Yeah, you need pre-approval. Yeah, the prices are going up. Yeah, you're going to be denied coverage. Yeah, this healthcare system's terrible. Then why did we pass you stupid Obamacare that shot the prices up through the roof? What was the point of it? It got us nothing. It only made the problem worse. 3 amazing parts of that clip. Jon Stewart wasn't the only one, though. We also had Jimmy Kimmel and even Elizabeth Warren seeming to justify the murder of that healthcare CEO. We'll get to that in one moment. First, though, I want to talk to you about Home Title Lock. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Knowles. If you are a homeowner like me, when is the last time you checked on the title to your home? If the answer is never, you need to know about a fast-growing crime the FBI calls house stealing. Criminals are forging documents by filling them out with your information, signing it with a fake signature, and stamping it with a notary seal that you can get online for $20, and then filing them with county officials. That's all it takes for your home to be transferred out of your name without your knowledge. Here's the thing. The scammers don't want your house. They're not going to move in. They're after your equity. They take out loans using your home as collateral. Then they disappear, leaving you with a financial and legal nightmare. The first step is to check on your home's title to make sure you're not already a victim. You can get a free title history report and a 30-day free trial of triple lock protection today by going to HomeTitleLock.com using promo code Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S, or clicking on the link in the description. That is HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S. Do not wait until it's too late. You have the clapping seals in Jon Stewart's audience, guffawing at the murder of the CEO. How about Jimmy Kimmel's audience?
What is going on? There are dozens of products for sale on Etsy with his face on them. There are look-alike contests. There's Luigi Mangione crypto. People are making fan cams. Do you know what these are? These are, again, I learned about this today. These are tribute montages like this.
I'm taking a chance because I like you a lot, so I'll give it a shot. Give it all that I got. La-di-da-di-da.
There's this whole segment about, man, how good looking is this murderer? Yeah, people love him. They're buying all sorts of merch from him. And the audience laughing, clapping. So you say, okay, well, comedians are making jokes about it. But are there any sober, serious liberals, maybe even elected liberal politicians, maybe even major national statesmen who are justifying this sort of thing? And the answer is yes. Former Harvard professor, current United States Senator, former presidential candidate, as establishment Dem as it gets, Elizabeth Warren. Here's what she had to say to Joy Reid. Joy Reid, interviewing her, says, so we've been talking a lot about this Luigi Mangione, the case about the UnitedHealthcare CEO. People are very angry at UnitedHealthcare, I think for a good reason, denying care and the whole system. So Joy Reid says, yeah, people are angry. Yeah, it's justified to murder the CEO. Elizabeth Warren, who is supposed to be a more normal person than Joy Reid, who's a complete lunatic, she says, look, we'll say it over and over. Maybe, should I do an Indian accent for Elizabeth Warren? Oh, yes. Well, Great Spirit says. No. Here's what she said. Look, we'll say it over and over. Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of UnitedHealthcare. But, here we go. Here's the but. Violence is never the answer. No, I'll get a trial. But you can only push people so far, and then they start to take matters into their own hands. And Joy Reid responds, they start to take, yeah. And then Warren said, we need regulation, in part to rein those guys in. Those guys, the CEOs of the health, look, violence is never justified. That's also not true. Violence in self-defense is justified. Violence in a just war is justified. Violence on the part of the civil authority, for instance, to imprison or execute murderers, that's justified. Murdering someone in cold blood, that is not justified. That's never justified. And yet, what she seems to say here is, look, violence is never justified, but maybe this murder in cold blood of the CEO, maybe that is. I told you yesterday, there was a major journalist from a major outlet, a liberal outlet, who texted me, said, why are the Libs getting the blame for celebrating the murder of this healthcare CEO? And I said, I think it's because of Taylor Lorenz, the wacky liberal influencer journalist. But it's actually not just Taylor Lorenz. Over the past 24 hours, you're seeing it's the audience from Jon Stewart, the audience for Jimmy Kimmel, a ton of people on social media, but even people like Joy Reid, okay, and then Elizabeth Warren, even a sitting U.S. senator. They are substantially justifying this murder. Even when they say they're not justifying it, in their words, in their logic, they are. Why are they doing that? Why are you seeing the Libs celebrate the murder of the healthcare CEO, but not the conservatives? Is it because conservatives love health insurance companies? No. We don't like health insurance companies any more than, we appreciate that there is such a thing as health insurance, but we have all the same problems with the healthcare system that the Libs do. The reason is that the Libs, in their ideology, take up a consequentialist view of ethics that says that the ends justify the means. They've done this for a very long time. The Libs will say that perhaps even acts that we would say are intrinsically evil can be justified if they give us a good end. Conservatives don't really think that way. Libs are more comfortable with political violence. They do it during BLM. They support Antifa. I'm not just talking about the fringe weirdos. I'm saying established people in professors, in professor chairs, in the U.S. government. They will not only defend, they will sometimes even financially support violent groups that commit street violence in service of political ends. We once called that terrorism. In the case of BLM, in the case of Antifa, in the case of a guy murdering a healthcare CEO, they just do that. They're comfortable with that. Conservatives really are not. The rowdiest we get is some guy puts on a horn hat and takes selfies at the U.S. Capitol. No comparison there. So Joy Reid comes right out, not even just in her interview with Elizabeth Warren, she just comes right out and says that, look, stop talking about the liberals, stop talking about this UnitedHealthcare CEO. Conservatives are the violent ones. In fact, conservatism itself calls for violence.
Because the truth is, those on the right don't necessarily abhor violence if it's against someone they don't like Black Lives Matter activists or pro-Palestinian protesters, undocumented immigrants, or the homeless. That's why we see them get behind people like Kyle Rittenhouse, who shot and killed 2 BLM protesters, or George Zimmerman, who shot and killed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin and turned them into cause celebs. Just look at how, in nearly the same breath, Fox's Laura Ingraham speaks about the 26-year-old UnitedHealthcare suspect and Daniel Penny, who was just acquitted yesterday in the subway chokehold death of 30-year-old homeless man Jordan Neely.
Did you notice anything about all the examples she cited? So in this case, Joy Reid is saying, look, some people on the left are celebrating the murder in cold blood of the CEO of a health insurance company. But conservatives will defend Kyle Rittenhouse or George Zimmerman or Daniel Penny. What do those 3 guys have in common? In all 3 cases, even including George Zimmerman, in all 3 cases, those men killed someone in self-defense. Case of Kyle Rittenhouse, he was being shot at by violent terrorists, and he responded in self-defense. He was out there to defend his community, but then when he shot those people, he was defending himself. George Zimmerman, much maligned because he got out of the car and followed this young man around a neighborhood, but when George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin, he did so in self-defense. We have photographs from when he was booked of his head all bloodied up. Trayvon Martin was banging this guy's head into the ground. He could have killed him. Daniel Penny, the clearest example now, a career criminal, not just a homeless man, a career criminal with a rap sheet a mile long who had busted up an elderly woman's face and smacked another elderly guy's face and had been arrested something like 42 times, gets on a subway, says, I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to hurt you. I don't care. I don't care about going to jail. Daniel Penny then subdues him, and the man, who was also high on drugs, dies in the process. That is self-defense. So Joy Reid says, look, stop talking about the leftists who support unjustified murder, because the conservatives sometimes have to commit violence in self-defense. So those 2 things are basically the same. They don't really seem like the same thing to me. So a lot of the libs have lost it. Some Democrats are trying to suck up to Republicans right now. Some Democrats are trying to seem moderate and to be able to work with the new administration because the Republicans have unified government. That would be someone like Senate Majority Whip in leadership, Dick Durbin, who is trying to communicate to Trump and the Republicans that even as they consider mass deportations, the dreamers, the sweet little dreamers, they deserve amnesty and citizenship.
Donald Trump said on Sunday he would work with Democrats to allow dreamers to stay in the United States. You went down this road with Trump during the first term, unsuccessfully, ultimately. Do you think you can realistically get a deal done with Trump on Dreamers, and what could that look like?
Based on what he said last Sunday, I do believe that. I was sitting on the couch kind of listening and half reading the paper, and then he got into Dreamers, and I sat up straight, and he said he was ready to talk. He wanted to see if we could find an agreement between Republicans and Democrats. And I'll just tell you, anytime, any place, Mr. President, call me and I'll be there. There are hundreds of thousands of lives at stake of good people who came to this country as kids and deserve a chance to earn their way to citizenship.
Illegal aliens deserve amnesty and citizenship. That's his argument. The American people have overwhelmingly rejected that view. In the election, immigration was a top issue. Mass deportations were a top issue. They've reflected this in public opinion surveys. And Dick Durbin, the Democrat, saying, well, at least the Dreamers need to stay. And he's totally wrong, but we'll get to why in one moment. First, speaking of young people, I want to tell you about preborn. Go to preborn.com/Knowles. The fight for life has never been more crucial than it is right now. While the Libs fight to expand abortion, Preborn Ministries is on the front lines fighting for life. When a mother sees her baby's heartbeat, when she witnesses that undeniable proof of life, everything changes. Preborn's clinics are strategically positioned in areas with the highest abortion rates, offering free ultrasounds and welcoming these women with God's love. The results speak for themselves. The majority of mothers choose life when they see their baby. Would you join me in this crucial fight? I personally support this organization. I think it is a great investment. I think there's a great return on investment. One ultrasound costs just $28. $140 sponsors 5 ultrasounds. That means you could save multiple lives with a single donation, not even a huge donation. To donate, dial pound 250 on your cell phone and say keyword baby. That is pound 250, keyword baby, or visit preborn.com/Knowles. That is preborn.com/Knowles. All gifts are tax deductible. Preborn has a 4-star charity rating. In this fight for life, every ultrasound gives the baby a fighting chance. At the Daily Wire, when we say join us in the fight, these are the fights we're talking about. We're talking about Joe Biden's vaccine mandate, taking that battle up to the Supreme Court and winning, protecting your rights against federal overreach. We're talking about challenging GARM's biased censorship of conservative voices and winning. We're talking about groundbreaking documentaries like What is a Woman and the #1 documentary of the decade, Am I Racist? But we can't do it without your support. There's never been a better time to join. If you are already a member, this is the perfect time to give the gift of Daily Wire Plus, now 40% off. Go to dailywire.com to join. Give the gift of Daily Wire Plus today. Should the Dreamers be allowed to stay even amid the mass deportations? Dick Durbin, Senate Majority Whip, he says yes, at least the Dreamers need to stay. Who are the Dreamers? Dreamers, obviously, is a euphemism and a term of propaganda designed to tug on your heartstrings and make you give the Democrats whatever they want. What's a dreamer? I'm a dreamer. I have dreams sometimes. I don't count as a dreamer? Dreamer is an even more ridiculous euphemism than undocumented American. Whatever you want to say about illegal aliens, they ain't Americans. Undocumented American. The distinguishing feature of them is not that they lack documents, it's that they're here illegally. And then they're dreamers. And the other aspect of the dreamer euphemism is it makes us imagine a 5-year-old who was brought over here and it's just this doe-eyed little child in kindergarten. The dreamers are like 50 now, okay? The dreamers are middle-aged people, sometimes approaching later middle age. Okay, the dreamers. But you might say, okay, they came over when they were young. They didn't really have much to say about it. Shouldn't we just let them all stay? Here's the problem. There are 535,000 DACA recipients in the U.S., the so-called dreamers, people who have officially been given an unconstitutional amnesty and promise by Barack Obama after Obama said he wouldn't do it, after Obama admitted that what he eventually did do was unconstitutional. 535,000. Okay, look, that's a lot of people, over 500,000. But you might say it's a country of 320 million people, 330 million people. Maybe we can absorb it. Problem is there are as many as 3.6 million eligible dreamers because this dreamer nonsense has gone on for decades now. 3.6 million people. You're talking about 30% of all the illegal aliens in the country, 40% of all the illegal aliens in the country. If the American people have just voted and said, hey, people are here illegally, they got to go, they can apply to come back legally, but you can't just give them amnesty. 1, it's going to give Democrats a permanent electoral majority. That's the only reason the Democrats want it. 2, it's a basic violation of our law. 3, it's going to create incentives for more of those to come over. So it's only going to exacerbate the problem at the border, which is going to further undermine American sovereignty. And it's going to be worse for the illegal aliens who are crossing with the help of criminal cartels. 60 to 80% of women and girls who cross that border illegally are along the way. They all go into massive debt to some of the worst gangster criminals on earth. It's just horrible. You can't do it. It's totally irresponsible and cruel to give these people, millions of people, amnesty and create this perverse incentive. So what could you do? Ideally, I'll tell you what I would do. This is going to be a messy political solution, and it's not going to make anybody happy, but sometimes that's how you got to work in politics. Sometimes you have to recognize that prudence is a wonderful mean between extremes, and it's a virtue, and it's the paramount political virtue. If I had my druthers, if I were king, I would probably let a lot of these people live here. Not the really bad criminals, but I would let a lot of these people who were brought here as kids, I would probably let them live here. I would not give them any chance at citizenship. I would not give them any legal status. If they wanted to leave and go back to their countries that they actually hold citizenship in, all the better. But if they do want to continue to live here, I would have a conciliatory middle ground solution. I would do the thing that the Democrats always suggest with bewilderment and befuddlement. They say, would you just let these people live in the shadows? Yeah, I guess so. I guess that between the mass deportation of people who they basically abide by the law, they didn't consciously break any laws when they came here because they came here as kids, even if it was decades ago. Yeah, I guess I'd just let them live in the shadows if that's what they want, so long as they're not really disrupting too much. For many of them, I guess I would do that. I certainly wouldn't give them citizenship. You can't do that. I wouldn't give them any legal status. It's unconstitutional. It's wrong. It creates bad. But yeah, sure, I guess as a middle ground, conciliatory, moderate option, I'd let them live in the shadows. Here's why that won't work. The moment that Democrats come back into power, even if they just get the White House, but certainly if they have unified government, they'll give them amnesty and they'll make them into American citizens. They will probably permanently screw up the border problem, and they will create what might be a permanent electoral majority. You just can't. The Democrats won't allow you to do the nice, prudent, moderate thing. They won't allow it. It's only a matter of time before Democrats make them citizens. So you have to enforce the law. Generally, it's good to enforce the law, even if you were willing to kind of bend the law or have some mercy or exercise a type of a pardon. The Democrats won't let you do it. You can't let the dreamers stay. To let the dreamers stay is to say we're going to give mass amnesty to many, if not most, illegal aliens in the country. It's to totally undercut, to do the opposite of what the American people sent the Republicans to Washington with a unified government to do. It cannot be done. And the immigration problem is really, really bad right now, as even the New York Times admits. New York Times put up a graph showing that we now have an historic immigration problem. A historic boom in immigration, writes the Times. Average annual change in the foreign-born population as a share of the total U.S. population, it's just skyrocketed. We're just so high. We have the highest foreign-born percentage of the population ever. The Times writes, the immigration surge of the last few years has been the largest in U.S. history. Total net migration during the Biden administration is likely to exceed 8 million people. That includes legal and according to this report by David Lanhart. He runs the Morning, the flagship daily newsletter for the New York Times. 60% of that surge has been illegal aliens. So the vast majority, illegal aliens. I'm glad the New York Times is reporting on some news. Where was this article a month and a half ago? After the election, Biden has had the worst immigration policy ever, just even including legal immigration. This is an historic extreme, but it's also 60% of it's illegal, and it's 8 million people, and it's really crazy. Where was that article before the election? This is why people call these media fake news. And this is why outlets like the New York Times probably should lose their seat in the White House briefing room. It's not even that they can't collect the facts. In a way, it would be more excusable if they just couldn't do their jobs. They couldn't collect the facts. They couldn't report on the news. They can, and they choose not to. Or they choose only to report on the news when it will have a minimal political effect on Democrats, a negative effect. They choose only to report on it after the election. They choose to order their stories in ways to advance the agenda of Democrats and to attack Republicans. It's so this is what makes them the fake news. It's not that the individual things they're reporting are false. That happens too with the New York Times. But that's not what goes on most of the time. It's the stories they choose to cover, the stories they choose not to cover, when they choose to cover the stories at the most strategic times for Democrats. It's just a PR company for Democrats. That's all it is, which is fine. Republicans have PR companies too. But why would you give the Democrats' PR company a seat in the White House briefing room? Doesn't make sense. Turning from New York to California, State Senator Scott Wiener, you might have heard of State Senator Wiener. He is a guy who got national fame for trying to reduce punishments for pederasts in California successfully. He introduced a bill to have the state go softer on grown men who sexually molest little boys. That's Scott Wiener's claim to fame. Now, Scott Wiener is whining because Elon Musk is not supportive of public transit in California, and he wants people to drive cars. Elon Musk, the most prominent car maker in the world now, he doesn't like the public transit system, the so-called high-speed rail that's going to go in California sometime within the next 6 centuries. So Wiener is whining about this. He says, Elon has long hated public transit, which he thinks carries a bunch of serial killers. He instead wants everyone to drive a car, preferably a Tesla. Now he has government power and is trying to kill off California's high-speed rail project. It's called killing off the competition. That's what killing off the competition. Is California's high-speed rail project competition for Elon Musk? Well, let's look at the numbers. I remember I lived in California back when they were building, supposedly, the high-speed rail, going to connect the top of the state to the bottom of the state. It was going to move us into the future. It was going to be so amazing. And then I moved out of California. They still don't have the high-speed rail. Construction of Phase 1 began in the Central Valley of California in 2015. Now, the state even admitted they're not going to build it all at once, so they were prioritizing the initial operating segment. The initial operating segment was going to connect Merced to Bakersfield. So instead of connecting the whole state of California, it was this little tiny chunk, but 2 places that no one needs a train to go between. That was the initial operating segment. Okay. That is 171 miles long. You could just drive it. It's not a big deal. That's 35% of the total San Francisco to LA route from January 2015 to December 2023. Do you know how much money has been spent building just that tiny little segment between 2 places that no one needs a train to travel between? $11.2 billion of taxpayer money. So far, $11.2 billion has put not even the whole 171 miles, 119 miles under active construction. It's not even close to being done. Not even that part. As of this year, the entirety of Phase 1 is projected to cost $106.2 billion. Almost a decade after this project began. They're projecting that just Phase 1 of this stupid project is going to cost $106.2 billion. Let me put that number into perspective. Elon Musk built both the Falcon 1 and Falcon 9 rockets, the latter of which, the Falcon 9, is 605 tons and can land. It can take off and then land on the ground. The most incredible technology maybe ever produced. Elon Musk built both of those rockets for a total of $390 million. It's difficult for us to track orders of magnitude. We're talking about $106.2 billion with a B to build a tiny little part of a railroad in California. That's what Scott Wiener and the Democrats want to do. Or Elon Musk can send us up to outer space and land the car for $390 million for 2 different types of rockets. No one trusts the liberal government to build, to maintain, or to police public transit. Up there at the top, Scott Wiener said Elon doesn't like public transit because he says there are killers on there. Yeah, hey, did you pay attention at all to the Daniel Penny trial? There was a killer on the New York City subway, a potential killer, a career criminal, Jordan Neely, who said, I'm going to kill all you people and I'm going to hurt you and I don't care if I go to jail. Thankfully, there was a hero Marine and the liberal government tried to put him in jail. Is it any wonder that no one trusts this public transit? Is it any wonder that people might prefer to drive a Tesla or whatever robo-taxi Elon's going to come up with might give him a little more credibility here? Is it any wonder? As far as I'm concerned, I'm no arch-libertarian, far from it. Let Elon Musk run the government. He'd do a hell of a lot better job than Scott Wiener and the California State Assembly, State Senate, the U.S. Congress for that matter. Some people say, I'm so worried. It seems that Jeff Bezos and Amazon has taken over shipping and the mail. I mean, good, give him the postal service. Good. He's a lot better at it than these people are. I'm not saying the government can't do these things well. I'm not a libertarian. I think the government can do things well sometimes, but they're not right now. Our government's just corrupt and dysfunctional. So, all right. Good. All right, Elon, I'd rather ride Elon's rocket ship from LA to San Francisco than some stupid zillion-dollar train that's never even going to be built. Now, speaking of technology, I want to talk to you about Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles. There is no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. You got to look a little bit deeper here. You will realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan, and you got to pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone. Pure Talk has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do it. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, Canada WLES, today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/Knowles, Canada WLES, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Right now, head on over. This is my wireless company. I use them. I love them. puretalk.com/Knowles, Canada WLES. My favorite comment yesterday is from Nick Ramirez, 5579, who writes, influencer, I hardly know her. Damn near killed her, if you ask me. Speaking of people who kill people, Bill Clinton is open to a pardon for Hillary Clinton in the final days of Joe Biden's presidency. Here is Bill discussing the subject on The View.
Do you think it would be wise of President Biden to preemptively pardon any potential targets? What about your wife, Hillary Clinton? She apparently is on Kash Patel's list.
For what?
Yeah.
Well, they got a problem with her because first, she didn't do anything wrong.
Of course.
Second, she followed the rules exactly as they were written. President Biden wanted to talk to me about that. I would talk to him about it, but I don't think I should be giving public advice on the pardon power. I think it's a very personal thing.
Bill Clinton probably shouldn't be giving public advice on the pardon power, seeing as he infamously abused his pardon power when he was president in the final hours of his presidency. Bill Clinton issued 456 pardons over the course of his presidency, which is actually not a huge number in totality, but Clinton also issued 140 pardons of all sorts of cronies in the final hours of the presidency. And that was widely criticized, and it did appear to be corrupt. But if I were Bill Clinton, I probably would like a little pardon for my wife. Well, I don't know. If I'm Bill Clinton, maybe I want my wife to go behind bars so that I could have a good time in Chappaqua. But Clinton here is saying, well, I'd be open to it. But he's losing his touch a little bit, Slick Willie, because when The View brings up this matter at all, he says, those Republicans, they're going after Hillary. They got it out for Hillary because, and he's about to explain why the Republicans want to put Hillary into jail because of all the crimes she's committed. But then he catches himself. He goes, because she did absolutely nothing wrong ever, and she totally followed the law, and she did everything right, and she never even jaywalked, and that's why the Republicans want to, hey there, Sonny, what are you doing after this taping, huh? Maybe go get a little cup of coffee. I don't know. I'm just reading the subtext. I'm reading what I suspect he was thinking about. That is a bad situation for the country because now there is an incentive to do it. There is an incentive to pardon all your cronies, all of your associates at the end of your administration. Blanket pardons a la Hunter Biden, anything the guy might have even done for the past 10 years. We're just going to give him a pardon now because the Democrats have established the precedent of imprisoning your political opponents. This actually goes all the way back to Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson did this to Eugene Debs, the socialist candidate who still got 8% of the vote when he ran for president. But then we kind of cut it out for a while, and now the Democrats are doing it again because they tried to imprison Trump, and they tried to kick Trump off the ballot, and they justified his assassination twice. So now we're in a situation where they say, oh no, man, those Republicans might throw my wife in jail. The guilty flee when none pursueth. This is an example of that. This is an example of the Democrats projecting. The Democrats know that they themselves tried to imprison their political opponents. So even if Republicans talk about it sometimes, lock her up, Trump didn't lock up Hillary Clinton. Now they're saying, oh, yikes. This is the sort of thing I would do, so I should probably prepare for my opponents to do that as well. The guilty flee when none pursueth. Speaking of political corruption, this is a side little story. It's a little inside baseball, but it's pretty delightful and delicious. The Washington Examiner is reporting that the Lincoln Project, these are the anti-Trump Republicans, the principled Republicans who stood firm against rising tides of populism and Trumpism, and they supported the Democrats because they put their country over party, that these guys are just a bunch of crooks who set up the whole op to enrich themselves, which anyone with a modicum of political sense and experience knew the whole time. Documents filed, according to the Examiner, with the Federal Election Commission show that over the last year, the Lincoln Project paid around $7 million to consulting firms led by senior Lincoln Project operatives. So for those who don't know, the Lincoln Project was founded by a bunch of slimy DC Republican political consultants who had not been hired by Trump. When Trump took over the Republican Party, he did not hire these people. These were very slimy people, and they were out. Some of them had even worked for Democrats because they were mercenaries and they don't really have any principles. But when Trump gets in, these guys are out. So, being clever political operatives, they set up a group, they pretended to have principles, and they milked Democrats for a ton of money. So they would air ads in the most liberal media markets, places that would not have any effect on any elections, but would convince libs to part with their money and give it to these slimy sort of Republican operatives. And then the operatives would take all that money and pay their own individual consulting firms for political consultancy. And they were just lining their own pockets. It was a way to keep the lights on in their homes and keep their vacations coming and keep going to nice restaurants while they were in the political wilderness because they couldn't get a job from Donald Trump. The irony here is that the people, and it's an important lesson to learn, the people who paraded their supposed morals and integrity are the most corrupt. But I have to say, having been around politics for a little while and having worked campaigns and seen that side of things, in a way, I think, good for them. It's slimy, it's gross, it's dishonest, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it because who's the victim here? The victims are these Democrat donors who gave these dirtbags a ton of money to enrich themselves. They got no political effect for it. So in a way, I'm sure that these slimeball Republican operatives just wanted to hurt Trump because Trump wasn't hiring them. But the actual effect of their activity has been to waste a ton of Democrat money that otherwise could have gone to good activism and campaigning and might have actually hurt a Republican. Instead, it just went to buy these guys some new TVs and automobiles? Okay. All right. It's gross, but while my enemies are fighting, why would I interfere? Now, speaking of fake conservatism, is one last little bit. Maybe I'll talk about it a little more tomorrow. Republicans and conservatives are celebrating great news at one of those far left-wing Ivy League schools even. Yale Law School is launching a center to defend academic freedom and free speech. That's right. Yale is in many ways the belly of the beast when it comes to leftism on college campuses. And so now, after incidents, including at the Yale Law School, ostensibly the most prestigious law school in the country, where academics and prominent lawyers have been shouted down, screamed at by these buffoonish students. Now the Yale Law School is taking a stand to defend academic freedom and free speech. The Center for Academic Freedom and Free Speech, a huge win for conservatives, except it's not really. Tactically, it might be okay for us for a moment. But the reason that the Center for Academic Freedom and Free Speech is not a win for conservatives is that those things aren't particularly conservative. We're going to have to leave that there. We will get to more on that perhaps tomorrow. But I'm so excited now because I'm going to speak to all of you in the Membrum Segmentum. I'm going to speak to all the creme de la creme, not the hoi polloi on YouTube. You got to go over, join DailyWire Plus, use code Knowles. You'll get a great deal and you'll have a great time. I'm also going to speak to my friend, His Excellency, Bishop Robert Barron. See you over there.